analogies. I've been talking about Gilligan's Island. What does this mean for you? So we've been looking at sort of the culture from blockbusters to niche busters, from Star Wars to Lego Star Wars animations, stop motion made by 12-year-olds. So let's now talk about, okay, let's move into this world. The diagnostics boom. So technology created infinite shelf space. The diagnostics boom, this is same, similar technologies are allowing us to create a massive increase in information about patients, including information about patients' individual characteristics. The more we know about them, the more we can treat them as individuals and less as mass audiences. The more that this information is being aggregated and tracked over time, the better we are able to understand, again, their individual characteristics. The more that these patients themselves have access to this information, the more that they themselves understand their individual characteristics and can self-organize around similar cohorts, the more demanding they get, in a good way, for specialized care. At this point, they themselves are asking to move out of the blockbuster model because they're empowered not just by their self-interest and perhaps self-centeredness, which is natural for patients, but also with not only data about themselves, but collective data about what people like them are also doing. Now we can move to the development side and the science side. As these same digital technologies are not only empowering patients and empowering physicians to understand patients, but also accelerating drug development. Now, I realize that the statistics do not demonstrate this. We're not seeing that drugs are getting cheaper and faster to produce, but you know the technologies as well as I do. We are clearly getting more powerful tools to explore nature, and presumably this is going to turn into new methods of drug development. The rapid screening and outsourced R&D are the two most obvious ways. The notion of this, pharmacogenomics, the one compound, one mechanism, multiple indications. Again, this is something that's very attractive to us, and is clearly enabled by both nature and economics. The question is exactly how do we do it? And then finally, the holy grail that we've been talking about forever, the notion of personalized medicine. Personalized medicine is the long tail of medicine. It is the shift away from the Gilligan's Island model to the, I will not use Phil as the example here, to the to the YouTube model. It is clearly what people want. It's clearly what biology dictates. It's clearly a way to get out of the morass that we're in, and yet it's been very difficult to execute for all the reasons but starting with biology, but also FDA, drug approval process, economics, marketing, our entire structure. We are in the record label business right now. Whether we know it or not, we are built around exactly the same industrial structural limitations that the record labels were, which is that they were all oriented around in sync, no strings attached, right? This is, that album, you don't think of that album as being relevant to us today, but it is. That album was made by a machine that required hits. There were 54 producers and engineers on that album. That puppet motif, that was not a joke. They were actually puppets. They were not actually puppets. Forgive me. They were being manipulated. They were essentially on strings. These were people. These were boys who were plucked, who were focus grouped and screened and put into roles. Music was written for them. Words were put in their mouth. They were told what to do and how to act. It was a synthetic product from a machine that required mass hits. It had radio. It had MTV. It had access to distribution. This entire machine was built around shipping millions of CDs until it all fell apart. I would argue that pharma is at that stage today. This is a machine that is built around hits. It really, it's the cost of drug development, the cost of marketing, the cost of drug approval, the cost of clinical trials are so high that only hits can fuel that machine. And yet this system has clearly reached its breaking point. I would argue that the long tail is really the only way forward, but between the biology and the clinical trials and the approval route, we don't know how to get there. So this is a challenge for us, but clearly what the market demands. So